Hi, friends. Meet Bonnie Zimmer, a native of an Appalachian community in New York. Bonnie grew up on a small family farm in an impoverished rural area. She spent her professional career as a staff scientist at the Department of Environmental Protection in New Jersey, where she specialized in water quality modeling and watershed restoration. Bonnie moved to Friend's house in April 2022. Here, she has become actively involved in a variety of activities, including serving as the clerk for ArtSpace, writing with the Friends House Scribblers group, growing flowers and veggies in the garden, and sharing poetry with a poetry group at Sandy Spring Meeting. Her artistic work, whether through her quilts or photographs, reflects her spiritual journey as a friend. Let's hear more about Bonnie's story.
My passion for photography came out of doing documentary photography. I grew up in rural Appalachia, so that when I was a child, my grandmother gave me an old, decrepit Brownie camera, and I played with that for a bit. But when you grow up in rural, poor Appalachia, it's really hard to get film and developing and stuff like that. When I was in high school, I talked my way into working at a camera store 40 miles away and begged and borrowed rides and worked at a camera store on Saturdays, where the owner of the camera store helped me to buy a good camera and then taught me some photography. And when there was no customers in the camera store, he would send me out on the street to take photos. And he pretty much kind of gave me developing in film, so that I played with photography, and it was playing with and doing documentary stuff. And I used those skills to do a science fair project, which got me scholarships, which got me college, which got me out of Appalachia, and got me into a scientific career. Well, I did a lot of photography for documentary stuff when I was working. I did watershed modeling and restoration kinds of things. So I did a lot of documentary things. And then I started playing with doing other things. And I took a number of courses to develop skills over the years. But it wasn't until I started doing some things with hanging out with other photographers where I started looking at photography as something that could be art. In the 60s and 70s, photography wasn't art. Painting was art. Photography wasn't art. And sometime in the 80s, I'm a Quaker, and so I was going to the annual Quaker gatherings. And one year I was hanging out with a bunch of photographers, and we were doing a workshop about looking for that of God in the things that we were photographing. And that changed my whole outlook on photography. And then I started doing photography that was looking for that of God in everything that I photographed. I think the biggest thing that I do with my photography is this continual search for what does it mean to look for that of God? What does it mean what is it that is a spiritual life? What is it that is a life of integrity? What is it where is God? What is God? What is spirit? And that's what I do with all the things I play with in art, whether it's photography or playing with fiber or whatever. It's what is this essence of spirit? After I retired and started doing fiber art, I did a fiber art workshop where somebody was using photographs as a basis for doing art quilting. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. And I got her to teach me how she did it. And then I started using my photographs as the basis for doing quilts. And I did a couple of workshops with how to do that, because it's not straightforward with how to do that, and developed those skills. I did 4 photographs for the exhibition, and one of them is a photograph of the meeting house that was a photograph about how community can come together and a group of people can come together and make something happen that wouldn't otherwise have happened. One of them is a photograph of a dragonfly, and photographing things like dragonflies, you have to sit and sit and sit and sit for hours to get a good photograph of something like a dragonfly. It teaches me patience. It teaches me a lot of patience. One of them is a photograph of a bloodroot, which is a tiny little flower that comes out in early spring. And then it goes away. And you don't see it again until the next spring. It goes underground. And it is something that comes back year after year after year. And the fourth one is a tiny little toad that comes, and those toads come to the pond at the school for 3 or 4 days in the spring. They sing their little hearts out, and then they lay their eggs, and then they go away, and just for a few days, and they only come when the temperature of the air has gotten to be 70 degrees for 2 days or more. Then they come, they sing their little hearts out, they lay their eggs, they go away. And that's resilience. That's coming and going and just doing the things that you need to do to survive. That's an evolutionary thing. You do what you need to do to survive. I look at the art program at Friend's House and Art Space as being a way to develop community here, and being a way to bring people into playing with art stuff, and being a way to develop not so much art skills and art kind of making people into, quote, artists, unquote, but being a way to develop relationships, develop community, develop a sense of belonging, a sense of who we are. I would like Friend's House to be a mecca for artists. One of the reasons I came here is because I knew there were other artists here, and I wanted to live in a place where there were other artists. I would like Friend's House to be a mecca for artists. I would like us to do all kinds of art here, and I would like it to be a place where artists want to come and live out the rest of their life. I would like it to be a place where all kinds of artists can come together, and I would like it to be a place where all the people who live here who want to do so can play with art stuff. I mean, art is really play, and it makes our lives better. It's not just for people who can do painting or drawing or fine art, whatever that might be. Art is to play.
My name is Nancy Lark. I am a Southerner who grew up questioning everything I saw around me, from racism and educational inequity to why girls could not join Little League or be named student bus patrols in the 6th grade. I had many questions. These early attitudes led to a multifaceted career in higher education, educational equity for girls in public schools, and funding for women completing graduate degrees. I moved to Friend's House in 2020, where I found many opportunities to reawaken old interests and learn new skills. The freedom to expand on activities or develop new strategies to grow programs opened the way for me to apply my skills as an educator to the Friend's House arts programs. As a co-coordinator for Art Space, I continue to learn about art and how important creative expression is in a community of senior adults. As a kid, I was in some sketching contests with my brother. He's a little bit older than I am, and so I was always trying to keep up with him, and he is a very good artist. So he helped me stretch my ability to do some sketching as a younger kid. I got my first camera when I was 12, and it's a little cheap camera, fuzzy black and white photos, but I was really passionate about trying to capture the world around me. And as I went through high school, I became more interested in it, and uh, I majored in journalism, as you are, and so as part of my studies, I did study photography in the days of dark rooms and developing your own film and printing your own photos. So I learned a lot at that time, which is now old technology. Um, and over my career, I then didn't do very much with art. Uh, I did a lot of writing, not as a journalist, but in other aspects of my work. And it was only after I retired that I began looking for creative outlets. And so with work in community theaters and then especially when I retired here, using art to tell a story, to reveal introspection, a way to look at things, a way to share with other people what the world is like through my eyes. So since I've been here, I've been doing a lot more with art. Well, probably the biggest turning point for me with my art was at the beginning of COVID. I was in South Carolina when the COVID shutdown happened. I had just flown in there to visit my family, and all of a sudden everything was shut down. So I was there for about 2 months waiting for the right time to do some flight back up here. And and my nephew is a knife smith. He forges his own knife blades, and learned a lot about what he was doing to put the knife handles together and finishing them. The different sealers he used, different techniques he used. And I noticed he had a lathe over at one side of his workshop, and I asked him to teach me how to use that. That really developed a deep passion that I have now for wood carving, and not so much building things, but creating sculptures and useful implements like knives for the kitchen and spoons, and but especially abstract kinds of things. My photography has really developed because I've moved, obviously, from the old technology to embracing the digital world. And so I'm experimenting a lot with more abstract kinds of images, not so much the literal world around me, but some underlying messages that we might find in everyday objects. When I was in about the 8th or ninth grade, I thought I wanted to be a writer. And I still do think I want to be a writer when I grow up. I still do a lot of writing. But I had a very encouraging English teacher when I was in middle school grades. And she encouraged me to take one of my short stories that I'd written for class and enter it into a competition there in the county. And I was amazed when I got the phone call one Sunday afternoon at my parents' home, letting me know that I had won first place and that there would be an award ceremony. That is while it's not directly related to the work that I'm doing now with photography and wood carving and other forms of art that I'm experimenting with, what it showed me was that I have a creative way of looking at things and sharing with people. And that was very encouraging for me. The role of teachers, no matter how old we are, how young we are, it is that role of the teacher mentor that helps us uncover the talents that we have. So that was kind of a milestone for me to break out of saying I can't do this to saying I think I can. And so that was a milestone for me. And I think moving here was a big milestone because the opportunities here to grow and develop talents that many of us just have never even knew existed just under the surface. So the time, the freedom in retirement, and a supportive community that offers opportunities to explore these things has really meant a great deal to me. Oh, Art Space is here is it's all about connection, connection and community. We are giving people with the art workshops that we do, the exhibitions, the showcases that showcase the artwork that all of our residents are involved in. We're we're able to share with each other in ways that open up paths to communicating with each other and talking about our lives. If we're having a photography show, and it includes photographs that are of interest to us, when we stand there in the hallway at Flower Alley with our neighbors and our friends, looking at these images, we're able to talk about them, and it brings up all kinds of memories and connections that we might not have otherwise been able to discover. The workshops that we've done here have been very exciting. It's a way to continue this communication, because as someone is doing art, they start thinking about what memories does this evoke, and what do those memories stir in me that helps me create this artistic painting or sculpture or ceramics. So we have these opportunities for people to grow together, to communicate with each other, and make these connections. Um, I think that without art, all of life would be a very sad place. It is through art that we, humans have communicated desires and aspirations, and we can learn so much from looking all the way back into the caves with the paintings that have been discovered on the walls, and what that says about the creative human spirit. So and that's what art space is for me here, creating a space, creating a place where artists can come together, learn from each other, share their talents, and not only with each other as artists, but also with the broader community, connecting Friends House to the community around us, inviting them to come in and share this experience with us. I think it's a really fulfilling part of our lives here at Friends House. We have so many plans for this next year and the year after that. We want to grow this program. We are hoping to grow into a vibrant, meaningful program that Friends House is easily identified with, that draws people to participate here in our community as residents or as visitors. We're hoping to build into an art space, an actual space where we can do art. We need studio space. We're looking at places where we can do that here on campus. It's going to take us a little while to get into a position where we can do that, but in the meantime, we are holding workshops. We have a newsletter. We are continuing to do our exhibitions of the art that is being done by artists that really dedicate a lot of their time to creating their art. And the workshops that residents attend, where they create a piece in that 2 hour workshop, hour and a half or 2 hour workshop, they finish a piece, and it's something that they may not have known that they could do. Painting to music, feeling the freedom of learning how the brush behaves on the canvas. and then showing those in a showcase, sharing with their friends what they did in this art workshop that they didn't maybe think that they could do. Many people come into the workshop saying, I'm not an artist. And sometimes we joke with them and say, before the end of the workshop, we're going to prove you wrong. Because there is an artist. There is an artist and an artistic streak, creativity that is within every person. It comes out in different ways. It comes out through writing. It comes out through music. It comes out through dance. It comes out through painting, wood carving, sculpture, ceramics, every different way you can imagine. Making paper out of natural materials is an art form. And so we are wanting to explore all of these different kinds of ways of interacting with our natural world, bringing in our concern as a Quaker community, a community that has Quaker values and of sustainability and other very universal values that affect how we look at the world around us. So we really hope that we'll be able to continue to grow these programs. We've made great strides in the last year and a half or 2 years, and we are looking forward to continuing that with more space, more exhibits, and more opportunities for residents. Meet Nancy Rea, a native of the West Coast until 1986. Nancy moved to Friend's House in 2012. Her careers have spanned education and public health with a focus on substance abuse prevention and emergency preparedness. Nancy thinks a major asset at Friend's House is the way activities are designed and run by resident volunteers. She believes that the spirit of volunteerism is important in keeping residents healthy. Let's hear more about Nancy's story.
I got my first camera when I was 10 years old, and I loved it, and I've been in love with photography ever since. Well, digital cameras made a huge difference because when you film, you take the pictures and you don't know until 2 weeks later whether you did a good job or not. With digital photography, you know immediately whether you've got the shot approximately what you want, but you also have the marvelous ability to edit afterwards. And to me, that's at least 50% of the photography. Sometimes it's 80 or 90% if I'm going for some particular effect. But that ability to play with the colors, the lighting, the exposure, cropping, zooming in on something, all on the computer where I can do it and then undo it is just marvelous. Wildlife photography is my thing. Plants and animals are just so interesting to watch, and I use a combination of still photography and videos to really capture the actions of the animals. I'm not real good at bird identification because I spend so much time looking at how they're interacting, whether they're on a bird feeder or sitting on a branch. It's catching that personality of the animals that's a challenge to me. I think I really got interested in the wildlife, really getting into wildlife more when I bought a place in West Virginia out in the woods where I could sit and there was nothing man-made around, and I could just really concentrate on looking for the animals. And then when I moved to Friend's House, I have the best animal game trail in my backyard, so I set up my trail cameras there and I can get fantastic shots of the animals behaving when there's no human around. So those are the two seminal points in my photography. Like any of the activities at Friend's House, a lot of us really socialize better when we're doing something. Cocktail chatter is not really the thing at Friend's House. It's working together on a project. That's where you really build the community bonds because you're working together and you have a joint goal, whether it's creating an interesting painting or collage or learning a new art skill or planning the year's art program. It's that working together that keeps our brains active and helps us bond as a community. I've met some people that I would not have met if we hadn't been doing things together in the Friends House art program. People who, some of them had professional careers in the art field, others were newcomers who just wanted to try their hand at something they hadn't done before. But it gave us a common bond to start conversations, and you find out more about people when your hands are busy. Your brains can be carrying on a conversation, and you really learn what's important to each other. I hope that it continues to bring in people who have never experienced art before, as well as people who have had a long career or a long hobby of doing artwork. It's also, under the current leadership, they have really been reaching out to the residents in the healthcare area, and we're getting a mingling of independent living and healthcare residents that I think is just marvelous from the social aspect, that it's exciting for all of us to be meeting new people and doing new activities together.
Meet Hugh Corbin, a native of New York City and a resident of Friends House for the past 15 years. Hugh's journey at Friends House has been filled with opportunities to create and share his art. Friends House has not only provided him with a place to make and show his art, but it has also allowed him to continue his work as an art teacher. Hugh and fellow residents gather in the art room of Homes on Quaker Lane for informal workshops. This space is open to all Friends House residents and serves as a communal hub for conversation and creativity. Residents bring their own art supplies or use materials donated or provided by Homes on Quaker Lane and the Friends House Seniors Association. Our purpose is to bring residents who make art of any kind to a space where they may show what they are doing, help and encourage each other, and have an enjoyable time working together. Let's hear more about Hugh's story.
As a child, worked drawing because I was an only child, and I had done much of the drawing as a activity at home by myself. So I did a lot of drawing and modeling with clay and all of that sort of thing. All through high school, I was in art classes, and I was lucky enough to have a art teacher who became the assistant superintendent for art in all of Manhattan, New York City. He was Toby Kurzban. He was a fantastic teacher. He gave us all kinds of leads in how to make things and make things whole. So I think that was a wonderful experience. And I carried what he taught me into college days. And at college, I took a couple of classes with artists, Giorgio Prestopino at the New School, and he was very, very helpful in pulling me. But actually, I never learned the full techniques of doing oil painting or watercolor or any of the things. So I said after a while that there was no way that I was going to study art and become an artist, because in New York at that time, being black also did not hold well for a person doing an art career. And everybody advised against trying to do art. So I left it that I would become or try to do art after I retired. So years later, after I've been drawing and sketching and making little things, I decided that I would take an art class, because it was time for me to become an artist, because I had this drawing skill. And I went into the class, and the teacher was very nice, But she looked at what I started to do. She said, "No, no, no, that's entirely, you got to think in terms of the whole thing. You got to talk about composition. You got to think about it." And I realized how much I still had to learn. And it took me years really to develop. And most of the development came in Barbados. After retirement, we went to Barbados, and I worked there with Stanley Graves, who was the Guyanese master artist who was living in Barbados at the time. And I worked with him for 6 years. And he was the one that actually gave me the final skills so that I could produce a decent oil painting. And when I came to Friend's house, we retired to Barbados, and then we second retired here at Friend's house. I discovered pastel. It was a quick, easy medium, much more, as much forgiving as oil is. So I was able to do a work in a short time, and it doesn't need as much preparation and cleanup. So I enjoy doing it. And here at Friend's house, I discovered there was an art room. And when I came, there was so much material in the art room. I was so impressed. Oh boy, this is really a community of artists, I thought. Well, it turned out that all of the equipment had been left by people who had gone on, and that there wasn't any real program or activities. So I began to do some on a very small scale. And we had what I called art therapy for people who needed that kind of support. And I had had a course in art therapy years before. So I was able to do some of that for, for the older community. And since then, Friend's House has taken on an art gallery in Flower Alley, and um, we have spent money in developing it so that it has the proper fittings, and we show exhibits which are very, very high quality, actually, because we have a few professional artists here. And that's what I have been doing. This art workshop is just a way of opening up the doors to let anybody come who would like to learn or who would like to enjoy themselves. Sometimes I say we don't have classes, we have conversations. And we talk about what we can do, and we do as much as we can and enjoy ourselves rather than trying to prepare exhibit quality work.